How y'all doing? I'm Joshua Wiley, and look, the question is, does the Bible agree or disagree with Kanye? Let's get to it. Look, the Bible totally agrees with Kanye about blacks and Jews. Let me tell you something that many of y'all may not have been taught in church, because a lot of elders and pastors don't do a lot of studying and go deep into the Bible. But let's put a little common sense first. First point I want to make. Let's put a little common sense to it. You know, Israel being at the, I guess you want to say at the north east point of Africa, depending on which way you're looking at the continent, they were in slavery for 400 years to the Egyptians. Let's start right there. They were in slavery, let me say it again, for 400 years to the Egyptians. Now, how much interbreeding do you think happened between the Jews and the Egyptians in 400 years? And for y'all who, or maybe a little slow, Egypt is in Africa. Egypt is in Africa. You know, Egyptians are Africans. So that's just one point. 400 years was this people in Egypt. There was interbreeding going on. You know, there was interbreeding going on all day, every day. Another point. What a lot of people don't know and haven't been taught was that Moses had a black wife. She was Ethiopian. She was actually black African. You know, she was Ethiopian. Her name was Zipporah. And her dad was Jethro, who was the chief priest of Midian, actually helped rule Israel at one point with Moses. But if you go to Numbers chapter 12, read the whole chapter. See, Moses' sister Miriam and Aaron were criticizing Moses because he had a black African wife, and God instantly came down and punished Miriam with leprosy. How ironic. You know, God is beyond amazing in how he teaches. Here she was ostracizing Zipporah, Moses' wife, because of her skin color. So God gave her leprosy, and she was ostracized, put outside the camp because of her skin changing colors for 7 days. And they had children. That point is rarely taught. Why is that rarely taught, that Moses had a black African wife and children? All right, next point, and this is the biggest point of all. Joseph. Now, we read about the story of Joseph. You've seen the movies. Many people have heard the movies and all of that. But one key point they fail to realize is that Joseph married an African. He also had an African wife, an Egyptian wife. And they had children. Two of his sons was named Ephraim and Manasseh. Why does those names sound familiar? If you know, then you know. Well, let me tell you. Two of the original tribes of Judah, I want to say it was Simeon and another one, were punished. And they were cursed. They were kicked out of the 12 tribes. They weren't kicked out, but let's just say they were kicked out. And they were replaced by Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So if those names sound familiar, it's because you probably heard them all throughout scripture as a part of the 12 tribes. What isn't taught is that these two men, because they're men, they're Joseph's sons, but they're also African, of African descent. Their mother was pure African. Well, I ain't gonna say pure. Let me take that back. I don't know if she was pure. Like I say, no telling, but she was Egyptian. She was African. So 2 of the 12 tribes of Israel were of men of African blood. The Bible, and that's just a quick 2 examples. Okay. I'll throw something else in. Look. The Jews of today look very different from the Jews of yesterday. There are 2 descriptions of Christ in the Bible, one in Daniel, one in Revelation. How ironic that it's the 2 major books of prophecy. But when describing Christ, it said his skin was bronze and he had hair of wool. This is a bronze penny. This is a bronze penny. I don't know if y'all can see that. Everybody pull out a penny. There you go. Look at what color it is. It says his skin was bronze and his hair was wool. His hair was wool. The reason why the Jews look a lot different today than they did back in the day, because after the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70, by Titus, the Jews were scattered and displaced. That's how a lot of them ended up in Europe, Caucasus Mountains, and all of that stuff. And with, I want to word it right, with in Germany and all throughout that country and all throughout other countries. That's why they were dispersed everywhere, because after the fall of Jerusalem AD 70, a lot of them that got away fled. Many were taken captive, many were killed, slain, but they wasn't allowed back to their land for some time. For some time. This was a fact. This was a fact. But anyway, I want to harbor on the point that 2 of the 12 tribes of Israel were from men who had African blood. Y'all have a good one.